The headline numbers for the labour market in the United States have been strong for a long, long time. Throughout your administration, your tenure at the White House, 241 initial jobless claims. You look at the payrolls numbers, you look at the unemployment rate. But a question still remains, and I'm intrigued to get your response. Why do you think wage growth has lagged so much at a time when the labour market on the headline numbers looks so tight?
Yeah, so first of all, you're right. I mean, these are just unbelievably low claims numbers. They stay, well below what I could have possibly imagined they'd be at by this stage. You've seen some translation of that into wage growth. You've seen real wage growth of over 1% a year since the end of 2012. That's much faster than the pace we saw in the decades leading up to 2007. But the biggest obstacle to even stronger wage growth is the lack of productivity growth. And until we have faster productivity growth in our economy, we're not going to be able to have the type of sustained wage gains that we'd like to see.
So Jason, as you look, for example, at the new budget, the skinny budget that's coming out, could that affect it? Try to put aside your partisan hat for a second, because one of the messages is there's going to be less regulation, cuts in EPA and other regulation. Could that lead American industry into making more investments that could, in fact, lead to productivity gains?
I don't think you're going to get productivity gains from a budget that has an 18% cut to medical research, which is one of the really big strengths of the U.S. economy, that has cuts to just about every infrastructure program. Supposedly there's some other proposal coming later, but we haven't seen it, that cuts job training and job search. This is not a pro-growth budget. This is a budget that is, penny wise, pound foolish, and would leave our country poorer if we followed it.
And Jason, it's perfectly understandable. You were a senior advisor to President Obama. But again, putting that aside for one moment, a lot of the job creation in this country comes from small and medium-sized companies, not from the really big ones. And regulation has been perceived as being a real burden on those entities. Do you utterly reject the possibility that by cutting back on a lot of the regulation, we could, in fact, get more investment and more job growth and better jobs, higher-paying jobs?
Oh, I think there's room for regulatory reform. I think there's room for streamlining and simplifying regulations. I think there's places where, we worked hard to get that balance right. We were focused on cost benefit, but I'm sure there's even places where we got it wrong, just like places our predecessors did. But, when you look at eliminating funding for climate research at the EPA and at the State Department, that has nothing to do with regulation. That has nothing to do with growth. That's about shortchanging our future as a country.